Hey guys, Zane from the Infinite Jukebox here with another album review, and today I wanted to talk about the new White Lung record, Premonition. Premonition is the latest studio album from Canadian punk band White Lung, as well as, unfortunately, the band's last studio album as well. That's right, for those who have not heard or for those not aware of the band, White Lung have officially broken up and split apart. The Canadians are no more as a group, and it's really a shame as they haven't necessarily been big hitters in the realm of punk over the course of their career, but they have always been one of the most consistent punk bands around and have always been major standouts within the general Canadian punk scene. So it's a shame to see them go, as I feel like they could have at least produced a few more great records before calling it quits comfortably, in my eyes at least. But hey, at least they're going out on a pretty positive note with their last studio album, Premonition. Mish Barbara Way as a vocalist is just fantastic as always. She has this distinctly clean style of delivery that slightly opposes what you may expect from the brand of punk that White Lung delivers. The average vocalist would most likely go for a bit more of a harsh or rugged delivery tone, and while that would easily work and still provide some strong support to the instrumental work on a record such as this, I really do feel like Mish Barbara Way's style of vocalization is actually something that gives the record a unique flair. I mean, obviously she's not the first punk musician to sing in a clean tone. In fact, you could argue that there are more punk bands out there with clean sounding vocalists than harsh sounding vocalists at the moment, and that it's more of the popular thing to do in modern day punk. But nonetheless, it does kind of give the record a sense of uniqueness about it, and she's just a charismatic, energetic, and engaging performer overall that I'm really going to miss hearing pretty often at least. Melody is arguably White Lung's strong suit on Premonition, as it has been several times in the past, and if there's one punk or rock band that you would pick out from the crowd right now, especially from Canada, that really know how to just make a song stand out to you in terms of chord progression or even just general song structure, White Lung are the band for you, as tracks on this record like Tomorrow will most likely get stuck in your head for hours on end, and that's not a bad thing either, because they're great songs in the first place that just so happen to have incredibly well thought out progression and structure that is highly commendable, especially in a world where it's fairly easy to make what's definable as punk, but it is incredibly difficult to make something that's genuinely memorable, and that's why bands like White Lung are so easy to define in the general landscape of punk, because they are bands that rely on melody so heavily that without it, they would just be another punk band. But with records like this, they prove that they aren't just another punk band, and they have a lot in them in terms of general instrumental ability as well as general compositional ability, something that, once again, I will miss hearing from White Lung. Now, of course, with this reliance on melody, White Lung do admittedly leave behind some level of aggression and even here and there energy away from this record, which I suppose you could definitely argue it could have used more of from time to time, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing either. Every track here, for the most part, feels like a nice blend of blistering punk and well thought out power pop to make for this sort of alternative influenced, slightly hardcore slash post hardcore influenced sound that just really stands out overall and feels extremely successful and well executed with just as much passion as there is mathematical thought, which makes for a pleasant listening experience that's easily digestible yet at the same time fairly distinct overall. While I wouldn't necessarily argue with anyone when they would say that White Lung has been somewhat more energetic or furious or generally engaging in the past, because they certainly have from album to album and from track to track, I really do feel like throughout Premonition they deliver some strong work that, while not necessarily the most powerful stuff they've ever done, is some of the most well thought out stuff they've ever done, and overall it makes for a record that I'm still extremely impressed with, just in somewhat of a different manner than I have been on some of their prior records. Last but not least, with any album that's meant to be a sort of final record, a big finale for any band, the question arises, how is Premonition as a finale for White Lung as a band? I mean, they've been around for some time now and released quite a good bit of music, most of it being above average overall. So how does this final record pan out as a actual sort of piece of wrapping up for White Lung? And the answer is very good, actually. It really does feel like the band sort of put their all into this record, both in terms of performance and conceptualization, and although the group is now broken up, split up, parted ways, finito, etc., etc., you can still say that there is a level of passion and general forcefulness being put into this album in the best way possible, as a sense of finale seeps into the record's tracks and ultimately makes for something that maybe for another band would just feel like a sort of random record just being sort of tossed out there into the open, but for White Lung really does feel like a proper send-off overall. I mean, I would have actually been disappointed if this band went out on a slow or a bit of a bum note, but here we are with Premonition, an album that never really lets up on its particular style, and that's really the way that White Lung have always done things, and most likely would have continued to do things had they kept moving forward. So to see them end like this just feels like they're ending things on the most White Lung style possible. And sure, I'm not going to say this is like a standout of sort of career-closing albums or anything like that. There have been better, much more epic, much more grand, even much more impressive career-ending, closing-off pieces. But at the same time, for White Lung, this is about as good as it could get for a way to wrap up their history and sort of have a finale ending chapter to their time as a group. So, overall, Premonition is not the most amazing album in the world, but at the same time, it is a fantastic White Lung album that does everything that you would hope for it to do, as it is extremely consistent from track to track to track, and overall, I have no qualms with it whatsoever, and find it to be a very strong send-off to a band that will be dearly missed within the punk scene, especially within the Canadian realm of punk. I'm going to give this record 4 stars out of 5. With that being said, that is the end of this album review. I've been Zane from the Infinite Jukebox. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.